We're back. This is Rochelle Peters with Treasured Gifts, LLC, and we are back for part 2 of making the ByAnnie Bella quilt coat with Quilting Elissa. I'm so excited to get back on the second part of it. In part 1, in case you didn't catch it, we walked over the fabric requirements and also cutting out our pattern pieces out of the lining and getting our quilting pieces prepped. Now, I mentioned in that video that I was going to use, I'm blessed to have a long arm, and so I was going to use my long arm to do the quilting on there. And I have some video, I'll show you some time-lapse video of me quilting it. I was a little unsure about how it was going to work loading batting onto my long arm. Usually when you load a long arm, you have the backing material. You don't actually pin the batting itself to your leaders. So I was kind of curious how that was going to work. Worked great. Time-lapse video will kind of show you how I did that. I didn't have any issues with it. Tension was a little bit different, but once I got through that, everything worked just fine. So I know not everyone has a long arm, so I did want to walk through real quick with a practice piece on doing it on the domestic machine, because I know this is how most of us are going to do it. So I just have a spare piece of batting and fabric. So what the pattern will tell you is it will give you layouts, and let me kind of pull this up here. So it will give you layouts on how to lay your fabric onto your batting. So you lay your fabric right side up directly onto your batting, and then they have you cut out around it. I mentioned that you usually need a twin size package for the batting. Will cover it. I am using my standard batting that I have and I use for my long arm, which is, I love the stuff, it's Hobbs 80-20. So 80% cotton, 20% polyester. Elissa from Quilting Elissa says that the cotton batting will work just fine. She prefers bamboo. So I do have on order, and I will have on my website, treasuredgiftsllc.com, some twin-sized bamboo. And I'm gonna give that a try because I'm gonna do another quilt or another coat, and it's gonna have all the bells and whistles on it and everything else. And I'm gonna use the bamboo on that one. So we'll see how they compare and how they hang. But she said the cotton blend will work beautifully as well. I did spray some 505 adhesive on it just to hold everything together. So from that, I am going to grab my ruler over here. I've got everything tucked away. All right, and I'm gonna follow the directions. Now, one thing I did realize, of course, they say to make sure you read the directions, read the pattern before you, start to make it. And I thought I read the pattern. Turns out I skimmed the pattern. So I needed to go back and actually read word for word the pattern. So if I was doing all the quilting on my domestic machine here, I would have these pieces. Whoop, didn't quite go all the way through. There we go. Okay. So I would have these pieces all cut, all my individual pieces that I need. And she says to increase the stitch length to about 3 or 3.5. So I'm gonna take mine to 3.5. And the first thing we're gonna do, and I'm moving my needle all the way over to the right here. There we go. I'm gonna move my needle all the way over to the right. And I'm sewing standing up, so this will be interesting. But this is new to all of us, right? So we're all learning together. Okay, so I am gonna just do a stitch around. Now notice I am using a walking foot, and this one is actually a mechanical walking foot. So it's plugged in, it uses electricity and everything. It's a little zhuzhed up one. A basic walking foot that's on your standard machine will work just fine as well. I just happen to have this available, so this is what I'm using today. So. So this is just sealing the edges to make sure they don't shift on me while I'm quilting. So I've got all my edges sealed. So what this does, it just holds everything together. Plus I've got the 505 spray, so it shouldn't shift on me. Now what I can do, I'm gonna play with some of my stitches. And again, this is just for show. I am gonna do a zigzag stitch and I'm gonna widen it quite a bit. So if this was the piece I wanted to use for my yoke or what have you, I would start at the beginning. I'd change my foot. I've got my my side guard on right now, my edge guard on. I would take that off and change it to another foot, but this is just for demonstration, so I'm just gonna go ahead and leave that on there. And we're just gonna do a few lines. So let's let it go. Okay, so I've got my first zigzag there. I'm gonna keep it real organic. I'm not gonna plan a whole lot. Of course, you can make it as precise as you want. Also, if you do kind of switch side to side, you don't have to, but if you do flip it around, it kind of keeps the shifting from one side to the other at a minimum. I've run into that before. Okay, so if I wanted to continue that all the way down my piece, I could leave it like that. Or if I wanted to get really crazy, I can do a crosshatch on it. Okay. So obviously this was a very fast, very haphazard way to do it. Actually, I kind of like how it looks. I can see myself very easily doing it like that and keeping that for my coat. You have a number probably of different types of stitches. Straight stitch is always good. In fact, that's what I went with mine. But have fun playing too. You've got some specialty stitches that maybe you don't use like you should. Or like I should. I don't tend to use mine either. But anyway, so this is how you would quilt all of your individual pieces. And from there, we step into cutting. So these two pieces are my front pieces. So we'll put those on top. Okay, now remember I said that I skimmed the pattern and I realized I didn't actually read the pattern, right? So I found something interesting. So my goal when I quilted my fabric is I did straight lines, and my intention is that I want all the straight lines to be like this on my yoke, on the front and then again on the back, right? So I thought I was laying this on my long arm correctly to get the stitches the way I want, until I came to actually read the pattern. So this lays out like this, right? And the way the pattern lines up is you take your contrasting fabric and you line it up on the top like this. Now notice that my lines are no longer going vertical, right? They're now going horizontal. I did it incorrectly. But like I said, we're on this journey together and we're learning it together. I'm going to show you all the pretty parts and all the ugly parts, all right? So this is one of my ugly parts. I did it wrong, but not to worry. So what I'm going to do is once we sew these together with a 1/2 inch seam, then what we're supposed to do is take our front pattern and line it up on the sewn together pieces. So I'm going to grab, this is my front pattern. Okay. When I line this up, it's going to be lined up right on my edge here. Okay. I've noticed I have a lot of room here, right? So my fix to doing it, quilting it the wrong direction from what I wanted, I could leave it like that, but then my back would be vertical and I'm just too neurotic to leave it like that. So what I did notice is I can flip this. Again, this is not in the pattern. This is me fixing a problem. I can flip this, and when I line this up, I have plenty of room to cut this out and have my yoke going the direction I want it to go. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and do that. All right. Now, one thing I noticed also is that the way I cut my piece here, my lines are not perfectly up and down, perfectly straight, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this piece a bit, and I am going to make those lines straight. So I'm just lining up my ruler with one of my stitch lines, and I'm going to bring it over a little bit more. Okay, I want to make sure I have plenty of room. All right, so I'm going to square it up according to those stitch lines. So now, when I lay that together like that, now my lines are going actually straight. And I'm kind of trying to look where this is here because I like that. So I'm just going to kind of line up here. And she mentioned using clips, which I usually use. Honestly, I did not bring them with me into the studio here. So I'm just going to use some pins, and they will work just fine as well. I'm going to put my stitch back over to 1/2 inch. I'm setting my stitch length to 3.5. All right. Now when I start, I'm going to get onto my main piece, and I'm going to do a little back stitch and then come back to it. And I've got my ByAnnie stiletto. If you don't have one of these, you will want one just in general. They're great tools, but it really helps keep things in place. So let's get up on my fabric there. I'm going to back stitch. Okay, feed it through. Do my back stitch. Okay, and this other pin I left in place because it wasn't in the way of my foot. I'm going to take it out now. Okay. Press the seam open. I'm going to give it a finger press here. Press my seam open. There we go. So according to the directions, we are going to lay the pattern down, and we're going to use this yoke line to align with that seam that I just made. Okay, and then we're going to either put weights down or pin it down and trace after it. And then once we trace after it, or trace around it, then we're going to go and put all of our little markings, we're going to put them on the back of the quilted set here. All right, so I've got it right on that line, and I have a little bit of room. Now obviously if this was lengthwise, I'd have more room to adjust to make sure I'm catching little things that I want to catch in there. So I am just gonna take a peek here. I think I'm gonna move that over just a little bit more. Okay. So from here, I'm going to put some pins in. Like I said, she mentions fabric weights as well if you have them. Probably be a little bit easier, but we are going to be fine with pins. So from there, I've got my items marked down. And if you remember here, this spot right here is where I did my height adjustment. So just a reminder, I made a muslin version of this, and I just cut the lining pieces out of the muslin and put it together and adjusted it for fit. Okay, and I found that I needed my sleeves up about 2 inches, and the height, because I'm short, I'm only 5'2", and the height up about 2 inches as well. So in the pattern, she gives a line here for where to fold this to adjust the pattern. So I folded it up 2 inches, and I made sure that this line was still in line, and that's how I made that adjustment. Same thing for the sleeves, and she says don't forget your zipper guard too, to adjust the length on that. So I did that as well. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is just come through, and I'm gonna trace this out. So I do have a couple, I have one spot here that I need to mark. It's supposed to be marked on the back side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kind of put a little dot here. I'm still in my seam allowance. So that way I can remember to come back and put that mark there. I also have a mark here from my zipper, when I put my zipper guard in to line that up. So I am gonna put just a little mark and I'll transfer it over to the back side. I've got that down, so I'm gonna take this out and get to cutting. You can see I've got my lines here, and I went ahead and did it in pen because that's right, I'm gonna be cutting there anyway, and also anything else is gonna be in the seam allowance. Ooh, now see, this is kind of the scary part, right? You actually start cutting your stuff out. All right, here we go, ready? Here we go. Whoop. All right. So from here, I can use my scissors to cut it out, or I can use my rotary cutter. Honestly, for me, I cut better with my rotary cutter. If you're more comfortable with your scissors, then by all means, use your scissors. Wow, look at that. Okay, take a moment, right? Cool? How's it look? Look good? All right. Good deal. Okay, so that is my first front. So I'm gonna go through and cut all the other pieces. We'll have another side like this where I'll attach the yoke to it, and then we'll have the big piece for the back, and I'll stop there and go over lining up the back, and then we'll go over lining up the sleeves. So the last one we did, we laid this right side up, the pattern itself right side up. Now we want a mirror image of this, so we don't want to take it like this and cut it again, or we'll have two right sides and that'll be a weird looking coat. Okay, so we want to flip this over. So now this will give us a full front. Okay, so we want to make sure we flip it over when we're doing the other side. So now we have our front. How cool is that? When you get this far, go, yay! We got it. Okay, I know I am. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, on to the next one. All right, so the next step in the pattern, we've done the front with the yoke. Now, if you didn't have the yoke, you would just have a solid piece and you would just cut around the whole thing. You wouldn't have to worry about lining up the line on the yoke. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, fold it over. I'm gonna pin here and do my 1/2 inch seam allowance. So again, my stitch length at 3.5. I'm gonna 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm gonna back stitch at the beginning and let her rip. Okay, take my pins out and finger press my seam open. I'm gonna line up this yoke here with this, and I'm gonna kind of feel and make sure that that is staying straight. Obviously, we want to keep this as straight as you can, but I would imagine this seam here is going to be the most important because that's where it's going to match up with things. So I am just going to pin that together so I can keep these together. Okay. I'm just kind of feeling where that is so I can make sure that is staying straight. Okay. I'll do a couple more pins. Okay, and it doesn't say to do that in the pattern, but I'm doing it just because I want to make sure that doesn't shift, because that's the most important part right there. Okay. All right. So now we've got our back piece. And notice again, we have our yoke alignment, and this is where we want to put that right on the seam, just like we did for the front pieces. So let's see, we are going to line this up here. I want to get it right on that fold right there. So I'm going to take my pins, grab a few, and I am going to put that right on the fold there. And then this is going to go on the fold, and I want to kind of get through all the layers to lay that down. I might adjust that a little bit. There we go. Take your time. You can unpin, repin, move your weights around, whatever you need to do to make sure you've got it exactly the way you want it. Again, give yourself a little grace here. If it's not perfect, that's okay. That's the beauty of a handmade garment, right? It has the beauty is in the little flaws and things that make it unique. Now what I'm gonna do before I pin the rest of this down, just kind of thinking ahead, I know that I'm gonna be taking my pattern off and then I'm gonna be doing all my cutting, right? So to keep my pieces from shifting and moving while I cut, I'm gonna first put some pins, I'm gonna pin it underneath just to make sure everything stays together and in place while I'm cutting. So I'm just kind of looking to see where my pattern is gonna lie here. So now we can go around and trace it out. So we've got our other pins in place that keeps the layers together while we cut this, so that's gonna be very helpful. So what I'm doing when I start on this, I've got a bit of bulk here, right? So if I kind of just start from the edge and go forward, I might move things and get them out of whack. So I'm starting just about 1/4 of an inch in and going backwards first and then moving it forward. And it's just kind of helping to ease into that bulk right on the edge. All right, let's check it out. Oh, I missed one. See, I got so excited. All right, here we go. Okay. Ta-da! Look at that. That is so neat. All right, we take a little victory lap. Yay! Okay, so we're gonna set that aside. Yay, yay, yay. Okay. Our next step, I believe, are the sleeves. This one I'm kind of looking forward to. That's gonna be really fun. Okay. So now I did deviate a little bit from the directions. So I had my own, let me grab this and this, okay. Okay, so I had my own accent piece here that I did not do the FPP, the foundation paper piecing on there. So I cut a 4.5 inch strip. This is where you use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And so I put these in using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I put them on my long arm and I quilted the entire piece as one piece, okay? So on here, I've got my straight line, and then for the middle, I switched over to some free motion quilting, and then I went back over to my straight line. So the way that's a little bit different than how the instructions mention. So what the instructions tell you to do for this accent piece, obviously if you're doing FPP, you're gonna have your strip and everything already ready to go as part of that process. What they tell you to do if you're just inserting a strip like I did that isn't pieced, they tell you to make its own little mini quilt sandwich, a 4.5 inch strip, do your quilting on it, and then join the two pieces together like we just did for the quilt yoke and the quilt bottom, okay? Truth be told, like I said at the beginning, I skimmed the pattern. I did not actually read the pattern. So I assumed that the way that this was supposed to go is I would make this one big piece and quilt it all together. It's fine, they both work just as well. Actually, I think I might kind of even prefer this way for myself. But anyway, just wanted to make you know it's a little bit different than how the pattern has you do it. That pattern has you insert this piece as its own quilted mini quilt and join it together, and then join it with this other side together. So we've already done that, so we're gonna jump to the next part. So we're gonna take these lines here and we're gonna line them up with these here. And that's what's gonna keep that strip down the center of our sleeve. So again, this has been shortened up. The pattern itself has a line to tells you where to shorten or lengthen it. So this is when I wanted the sleeves 2 inches shorter. So I folded this up 2 inches to give me that. And then I made sure that my lines still matched going on here. So I had a nice straight pattern still. So what I am looking for is I am lining these lines up as best I can with my seam here. All right, so I'm going to find that. All right, and then I'm gonna place my pins. I'm gonna pin here first because that is the most important part in my book. And I don't want it to shift. Okay, then I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna adjust that a little bit. Now, depending on your seams might be spot on, they might be a little off. That's okay. That is not an issue. Because when it's on your sleeve and moving, or on your arm and moving around, nobody's gonna know, right? Okay. All right, so I've got those pinned. So let's get this pinned here. We will pin and then trace out and cut. Okay, so right here we have a little tick a little marking we've got to take care of. So again, I'm going to put it on this side for now within my seam allowance, and then I'll flip it over when I'm done and do it on the other side. Over here we have one that has 2 marks on it, so 2 little ticks on here. That is important because that's going to determine what is the front side of the sleeve and the back side of the sleeve. Okay, that is our first sleeve. So let's take a look at our second sleeve because we want to make sure that we flip this over, because again, we need to make sure we've got mirror images, right? One for each arm. Notice that the fabric or the pattern is a little bit different. So in here on this side, we've got this kind of does a little swoop-de-loo, or whatever you want to call it, a little lift there, right? At the corner there. This one does not have it. So when we flip this over, note that these little edges here are different, right? So we'll want to make sure that we make a mirror image of this, otherwise it's not going to fit just right. Okay, so we've got our sleeve there. And we'll do the same thing on here. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Now we've got our 2 sleeves. Okay, so the next thing we have, the last thing we have actually, is doing the collar. Once we get this piece done, we can start putting all of our pieces together. I'm so excited to see it all. So let's take a look here. So on the collar itself, the pattern is meant to go over the piece folded. So we're gonna make sure to fold this in half. Now remember on mine, just because of the way I quilted it, I've got straight lines on here. I wanna make sure that my straight lines are gonna go perpendicular to my collar. So I am gonna fold my material based on my stitch instead of necessarily lining this up with the edge of my fabric, because I've got plenty of room and I've got enough room to do that, so I'm not worried about it. So I've got a fold here on my stitch, so I'm gonna lay that down. And then from there, I'm gonna place my pattern. So my fold indicator right here. Okay, I'm gonna place my pattern right on the edge there and give that a couple of pins here. So now I know I've got my lines going straight, and when they go on my collar, they're gonna look nice, and I've got plenty of room to make sure that my pattern is over both pieces, both layers of material. Now again, I'm gonna pin this underneath, because like I said before, I wanna make sure that when I pull my pattern off and all of my pins, that my pieces are still staying together, so when I cut them, they don't shift, okay? So I'm gonna lay that down and then pin my pattern here. Just a couple of pins, doesn't take much on this small guy. Okay, right here. And notice also on the pattern, it states on here, bottom of collar. So I'm gonna make sure that I put a little mark or maybe a B or something like that on the back of my collar so that I know which way is the top and the bottom, because it's gonna make a difference. All right, so I'm gonna get to tracing this out and cutting it out, and we'll go on to the next step. All right, that is it. So let's take a look and see what we've got here. Okay, so I've got a marking right here that I'm gonna transfer over. Okay, I'm gonna flip this over and mark the other side. So I've got my mark now on both sides of my collar. Okay, so I grabbed my lining pieces that we cut from the previous video, and I've got my pocket pieces here specifically. So we're gonna take one of the front panels, right? Now this is the one that is gonna go on the right side, and we're gonna put our pockets right here, okay? So on here, we've got a mark telling us where to start our pocket, okay? So I'm gonna face, reading the directions, we're gonna face right sides together and match the straight edge of one pocket with the seam of the front. So we want the pockets to be going down. Okay, so we want the pocket to be facing down, so we put our hands in. That's how they go in like that. And I'm gonna line up my pocket. So I've got my mark here, and I'm gonna line my pocket here. Notice I have right sides together. Okay, so that is where I want this to end up. And I am gonna feed this through with my batting on the bottom. So I am gonna go ahead and pin this bottom part first. Okay. And then I'm just gonna line my pocket up with the rest of the edge there. Now, because I am working with quilting cuddle, and it's a little bit slippery if you're working with any kind of slippery lining, such as a satin or some other kind of material that has a little bit of move to it, you may want to double pin. So I'm gonna put a pin back behind here just to keep things in place so they don't shift on me, all right? Okay, so coming in, and let's just double check, that is a quarter, okay, yep, still a 1/2 inch seam, so we are still good there. Now I'm gonna back stitch. Okay. All right, so in here I've got first part of my pocket. All right, so we're gonna do that for the other side as well. Take these out. So what we've got here then is the front of the coat and our pockets on the front. Fantastic, okay. So we're gonna take our coat back. And note right here are the lines for our pocket placements. So I'm gonna grab my pocket, and it's gonna be right sides together, and then back stitch again. Okay, fantastic. All right, and then we'll do it for the last one. All right, perfect. It's looking great. It's starting to come together. Okay, our next step. So now that we've put all the pockets in, we're supposed to go back and top stitch them. Okay, so we're going to top stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And this is where I like to have the guide on my foot, because it allows me to butt my fabric up against it and know right where the measurement is that I want. And I'm gonna back stitch on that again. And this is one where you'll wanna make sure that your top thread matches the color of your pockets, because it will be visible. So we've got our 2 pockets stitched down in the front, and then our 2 pockets stitched down in the back. Okay. So the next thing, they want to make sure that we secure the pockets to get them out of the way. So we've got the pocket secured, and our next step is to attach the back and the front at the shoulder seams. Go right sides together. And we're going to line up our shoulder seams right there. So I'm going to give that a pin. That. Okay. And I am going to change my thread color on this because right here I'm going to make a seam right there. So in the event that the seam is pulled a little bit, I want to make sure that if the thread is showing a little bit, that it's showing a color that's going to hide. The blue will stand out quite dramatically against that. So I am going to go ahead and switch that out. So I had moved my seam over to the 1/4 inch to do the top stitching on this. So I'm going to move it back. And now that I moved it back, it set my length back to the default value, which is 2.5 on my machine. So I'm going to make sure I increase it again to the 3.5. And do my back stitch, of course. Okay, so let's just take a look here. So I've got that put back together, and we are to take that seam, press the seam open. Okay, we will press the seam open. Okay, so now we have this kind of weird looking thing, right? But we've got our front and our back parts put together. Okay, so from here, let's see, it says secure the pockets. We add our shoulder seams, which we did, and then we're going to attach the sleeves. So we have a right side and a left side on this. We also have where we have 2 notches and where we have 1 notch. So this is going to help us determine, make sure we're aligning the front side of the sleeve with the front side of the coat. So in here, we've got a double notch here, and we should have a single notch there. Perfect. So I'm going to place these right sides together, and if I have the right sleeve, I should have 1 notch here and 2 notches here. Notice if I'm looking at this one, I have 2 notches here and 1 notch here. Okay, so this would be the incorrect sleeve. So just double checking that to make sure. And pins are going to be your friends here. So I'm going to align this center with the seam first. I'm going to put a pin, and I'm going to make sure I catch the seam underneath. Just it kind of helps to make sure it doesn't flip over or do anything weird, okay? So from my next one, I'm going to find this notch here and that notch, and I'm going to align that. Okay. And then I'm going to find this double notch with this double notch here. Okay. I'm going to align those. And then from here, I like to find the edge of the seam here and put my pin in here. And then I'm going to work my edges in. Again, I'm going to put a pin down where there's a seam so I can make sure that seam stays nice and flat. All right. And then I'm going to work it in on my curve. Okay, so I've got that one there. And then this one I'm going to work in. I find that sometimes it kind of helps if you bend it over and kind of flatten out the part that's getting worked in, and it just kind of helps things lay flat a little bit better. Okay, so this is another one here. I'm going to bring that up and just kind of work it in. Take your time. I also like to make stuffed animals, and we do a lot of these kinds of things with stuffed animals. So you just kind of learn to find the main meat points that are important to you get those set first. Like this is where my mark was. I'm gonna go ahead and move this pin because I wanna make sure I get this seam in there in my pin. So you find the points that are important to you first, and then from there, you work the rest of it in. And it works, it goes every time. You may have to look at it again and adjust some things, but trust me, it goes in there. Okay, so again, I'm gonna kind of fold this up towards me so it's laying flatter. And I'm just gonna pin, pin, pin as many times as I think I need to pin. You can have half a dozen pins in here, you can have 25 pins in here, it doesn't matter, however many you think you need. Okay, so I've got all my pins in here. Okay, I should have actually pinned it from the other side. I like to run it through where the flat part is on the base of my machine. However, Elissa said to run it through with the flat part up so that you can see. So she's the expert. We're gonna give it a try and see what we think. And try not to stretch. Remember, you're going on curves, so a lot of this is on the bias. Most of it is on the bias. So be careful of stretching your fabric as you go, because it will distort. So you just gotta kind of gently persuade it. Give it a real good back stitch. Okay, let's see how we did. All right, so we came across our seams. They're pretty flat. This one gave a little bit of, that's all right. I can coax it. Okay, so everything went through the way we wanted it to. So let's take a look. Ah, look at that. Very nice, very, very nice. I imagine the seam allowance will just fall down the side here. So as I'm feeling it, let me flip this around here. Okay, so as I'm feeling it, the seam allowance is just kind of naturally falling toward the slope of the seam. Okay, so we'll do the other one. Okay, I've got a little bit of fullness here, that's all right. So when I've got a little bit of fullness, I can do a couple of things. I can back it out completely and take out some stitches and kind of work it in. Or if I think I have enough space to kind of work it in, I can just kind of spread the fullness out between where my needle is and where my next pin is. Okay. I can also pull the pin if I need to, but I've got enough space here to work that fullness in. So this is where having the stiletto comes in real handy, because I can get right up close to my needle, much closer than I would ever want my finger to be. And I can just kind of hold it in place and kind of guide it in the way I want to do it. Make it do what I want it to do, right? See? And that fullness just went right in. Not a problem. So let's take a look. So that looks good on the front. Let's look on the back of what we had against the bed of the machine. Looks great. All right, we will take it. Let's pop our sleeve out here and see how it looks. Look at that. That looks great. Very nice, very, very nice. What we've done now is we've got our sleeves in and we've got our back attached to our front pieces and our pockets in. So eventually what we will end up doing is we will end up sewing this all the way from here down to here. Okay, of course we'll leave this open for the pocket, but we'll come down to here, stop for the pocket and go to here. So right now the initial step is to sew from the end of the sleeve to the armhole. So we are going to start at the end of the sleeve, because this is the most important part to make sure it gets lined up as far as between that and the armhole. We're more concerned about this. So I am going to pin that guy right there. Again, I start with my main points that I want to make sure to match up, and then from there I work in my pins. So I am going to get these seam lines to match up here. Okay, so those are butted in together. I'm going to pin through all the layers. So now from here, now I can match up my seam. Okay, we'll make sure to backstitch real good on this one. This is a heavy seam. I'm going to give this a good backstitch. So just taking a quick peek here, we can see that's going to look very nice. Oh, I'm getting excited. This is really coming together. So let's just check our stitching here. Fantastic. Okay, so let's not forget the other sleeve. Again, I'm going to backstitch here a couple of times, just because that's probably the highest stress seam right there under the arm. All right, let's take a look on the back. Looks good there. Fantastic. And right in the middle, that's going to be awesome. All right, so we're going to take the pins out of the pockets now. Okay. And so from here, this would be handy to have a small ruler handy, but that's all right. We got this one, we'll make it work. Okay. So I need to do a 1/2 inch. So from the edge of this pocket, I'm going to go a 1/2 inch down and a 1/2 inch back. Okay, so my edge of my pocket is here, 1/2 inch down, 1/2 inch back. So I need to mark my mark right there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to find the edge of my pocket. I'm going to go a 1/2 inch down, 1/2 inch back. Actually, I might have that a little backwards. Let's double check. No. This is why we double check. Okay. I do need a 1/2 inch down. I need a 1/2 inch in towards. So a 1/2 inch down, a 1/2 inch in, because we want to bring the seam this way. Okay. You guys are getting the real thing. If I make a mistake, I'm going to show you and we're going to figure it up together. Okay, so 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch down. All right, so there is my pocket. Okay, so again, the most important parts first. I'm going to pin at the bottom. So I want to make sure that matches. Actually, what I should do is I should sew from the bottom up, so that way I can start here and I know that this is going to match. So I'm going to remark where I was. Okay. So here's the edge of my pocket, coming in a 1/2 inch from there and a 1/2 inch here. We'll make that mark. All right, we'll do the same thing here. The edge of my pocket, 1/2 inch. Okay. So now when I do it, I can put my most important junction right here at the beginning. If I would have done it the other way and feeding it in this way, by the time I get to the bottom, my material might have shifted and this might not have lined up. So that's why I want to start at the bottom down here. Okay. So then once I get here, I want to match up my seam here. Okay. And then when I get back to the top, I'm going to make sure those match up correctly. And then inside my pocket, and get my pieces together. Now give yourself a lot of grace here, because keep in mind that this is going to be inside your pocket. Okay, so if it's not perfect, no one is going to know or care. So we're going on a curve and everything else. So if it's not perfect, that is okay. Again, since I'm working with the quilting cuddle on this and it's a little slippery, I'm going to double pin it just to keep things in place. There we go. Okay. So keep in mind when we stitch this and this pulls open, if you see stitches, you want to make sure that you have a coordinating thread so it doesn't stick out. So I am going to change my thread real quick. Okay, here we go. Again, we got our 1/2 inch seam. We're going to back stitch at the beginning. So when we come along, we're going to look for that mark we made that's a 1/2 inch inside the pocket and a 1/2 inch inside the garment. So let me pull my pin out. There we go. I can also see where my stitch line was before, so I'm making sure that I'm just inside or just outside that stitch line so it won't show from when I put the pocket on. Okay, so I'm at my dot. I'm going to back stitch a little bit to give it some strength. So I'm coming back up on the dot on my pocket here, so I want to make sure I've got my stuff laying okay. So my dot is right here. I'm going to bring my foot to here and then pivot. Keeping my pin in as long as I can. And then I'm going to remove it here and make sure all the bolt goes under the foot at the same time so it doesn't shift. Now to do that, I might need to raise my foot, release some of the pressure, and then bring my foot back down. And I can feel underneath here where the seam from the other side of the pocket. So I'm going to bring this right to that dot. Do my pivot, and I am just past the stitch line from where I attach the pocket, so I know that will be hidden. And I'm going to give it a couple of back stitches here just for strength. I'm going to come right back to that meet point. There we go. Give that bit of back stitching there. Again, that's the underarms. That's going to be probably the most stress. All right, let's take a look. So we can see, because I made sure I stitched outside the line. So let me show you. So in here is where I attached the pocket to it, and I made sure I went just outside that line so that it was hiding, that stitching was hiding when you put the coat on, and we've got the pocket like that. Very fun, very, very fun. Okay, let's do the other side. Oh my goodness, starting to look like a jacket. Let's see what we got here. If you guys are stitching along with me, you're probably getting as excited as I am. Okay, so I'm taking a look at, whoop, I got another pin. Taking a look at where my stitching landed. It all looks good. Let's do it. Let's turn it around for a minute. You can take a second. Let's see what we got here. Oh, how fun is that? Okay. And we've got, take a look at our pocket. Make sure that looks okay. Yes. And this looks good. Oh, it's getting there. Okay. All right. Next steps. All right. So with the right sides together, which we have, match the collar center back at the neck. So let's mark the collar center back. I'm gonna mark that right there and right there. Okay. Do not have a center line, so I am going to make one real quick. We're just gonna fold this in half. Gonna put a pin here to mark where that center is. There we go. All right. Okay. So, and we had, just to realign everything. Okay, so we've got our zipper mark here. This is the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna match this up right here. Give that a pin. We're gonna find the edges here. Put that in like that. Okay, again, we're gonna do our matching here. I'm going to realign that a little bit. There we go. Okay. Fold it over. Actually, I'm going to fold it this way. There we go. Working from the edges toward the center sometimes kind of helps ease in any bulk. And here we go. Look, that matches perfectly. Okay. Almost like she did it on purpose, right? All right, let's do this other side. And then we're gonna sew it on. And we are ready to go. Collar put in. Do our back stitch. And do the back stitch. Okay. We're gonna fold that seam down toward the bottom. Okay. All right. That looks wonderful. Okay, on to the next step. All right, we're gonna check the seams. Once you have sewn all your seams, turn the garment right side out. Check for accuracy and restitch wherever. Okay, so doing the zipper guard. So the first step is to fuse the interfacing guard for all views. So the zipper guard, we've got it face down. And then we've got the interfacing on top of it. My particular interfacing, I had to steam iron it. So I've got that in there and ready to go. Okay. So we're going to place the interfaced side of the zipper guard against your workspace. So the right side up, interface down. Place the second one, right sides together. Okay. Let's make sure we've got this lined up down here. Pin that guy. And I've got my accent color thread in, so I am good to go. So from here, I'm gonna turn my zipper out. Well, actually, before I do that, I'm gonna do little snips here on the corner. It just helps ease the curve in a little bit. I'm gonna be very careful not to cut my stitches. Okay. I'm going to point out the corner, turn the corners here real good. Okay. I'm going to go give this a good press. While I'm doing that, I'm going to give all my sleeves a good press as well. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back and I got everything pressed. I got my zipper guard pressed, and then I also did a top stitch, 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And while I was pressing this, I went ahead also and pressed all my seams. So my seams are all pressed open, except for the seam at the top, which is pressed down toward the back of the coat. So we've got that all ready to go. So now our next step is to prepare the zipper guard. So this is, I use the color navy. This is the brand new 50-inch long zippers that separating zippers that ByAnnie did specifically for this project. So, and also many other projects I'm sure to come. But right now we have this 50-inch zipper, and we're going to take a look at how to install it. Remember, on our coat, on the front pieces, we marked a zipper placement line, okay? And then on the collar, there is also a zipper placement line. So what we want to do is measure that. So we're going to grab our measuring tape, and we're going to start right here. And the reason you have to measure is, of course, depending on what length you chose for your coat, and if you shortened it or lengthened it, your measurement might be different. So don't take my measurement. You need to measure your own. Okay, so we're at 20 and 3/8. I'm going to call it 20 and a half. And then we're going to add an inch. So we need 21 and a half inches of zipper tape. Okay, we want to make sure we don't cut this piece off, because this is the piece that holds everything together and allows us to take our zipper apart and put it back together, right? Okay, so we wanted 21 inches. So at the end here, I've got 1 inch, 21 and a half inches, and I've marked that. So from there, I am going to pull my zipper down past this point, and I'm going to put my zipper tape back together, and I'm going to cut right there. So I want to cut it right at that spot. So we're going to mark 1 inch away from here, right there, 1 inch right there. So we'll pull these across. This is new to me too, so we are stepping through this together as far as a separating zipper. Okay. So this is one where we'll want to make sure that we have the correct color thread in here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to fold it so the pleat is on top. By that I mean we don't want the pleat to go down along the edge of the zipper. We want the pleat to go along the top of the edge of the zipper. Okay, so I'm going to keep that mark right there. All right. I'm going to use my stiletto. I've got my stiletto right on the tip of that fold. So we've got the thread going right there. All right. We'll cut off our extra threads here, just so they don't get in the way later. And then we're going to cut even with the side here. All right, just like that. So this is how that ends up. We just want to measure it to make sure that our folds are going to line up at the top here. Okay, so we've got, whoop, there we go, the bottom of that. So I may want to, let me put my tape in here. There we go. Okay, so bringing it up to the top right here. That's pretty darn close. All right, we're gonna go with it. Okay, we're gonna do it. So this is the side of the zipper that has the pin, all right? So this is right side up of the zipper. We are gonna put it where the zipper tape is toward the left side, so we're gonna flip it wrong side down, so the zipper tape is now flush with the edge of my coat. I'm gonna find my marking right here, because I wanna run this through my machine like this. So I'm gonna pin it from this side, okay? So I've got my mark and I'm gonna adjust that just a slight bit. All right, I've got my mark there, right here. So I'm gonna put the end of my zipper tape there. And then I'm just gonna run this right along the side here. You're gonna do a 1/4 inch stitch to get your zipper on. Okay, and we're just gonna kind of follow. This line curves a little bit, that's fine. We're just gonna follow it. So let's get this guy under here. I'm putting my needle at 1/4 inch. I am gonna shorten my stitch length down to my normal, which is 2.5, just because I want this to be in really good. And let's see, so we have down here, there is a bit of a plate right here on this zipper, okay? So I'm gonna start just kind of right above it. Okay, I'm getting to where the teeth are at the top where they fold over. Okay, so I'm just gonna be careful and go slow over those. I'm gonna back stitch a few times before that and then a few times after. I don't necessarily like back stitching back and forth across teeth. It just gives you more chances to bust a needle. All right, I'm just gonna go slow. These are plastic or nylon, I guess I should say. So it's not like going over a metal zipper, but still, I have busted a needle once or twice going over it. Okay, so let's take a look here. All right, so we've got our zipper nicely put in. That looks amazing. Okay, so we're just gonna do the same thing on this side here. This time we will start at the collar. So let's grab that. Whoop, which way is my coat? I'm all turned around. Okay, there it is. I got it. All right. Okay, so we're gonna make sure these match. Okay. So here's the right side of my tape. So I'm gonna put my tape right here. Notice I didn't quite meet my mark up here. I think that's gonna be fine as long as they're both the same. I am not gonna worry about it. Okay, so I'm gonna match my zipper right there. All right. And that is where I'm gonna pin. Okay, there we go. And I'm gonna put this down at the bottom. that. Right here. Okay. Now I'm going to keep note of where my zipper pull is because I'm going to have to move that as I move along here. Okay, so I'm going to move it clear toward the bottom now, and let's get to sewing. I'm going to back stitch. Okay, I'm going over the zipper tape there, so I want to take it easy. There we go. Okay. Okay, and I have this box right here and this little tab, so again, I want to be careful. I'm going to kind of mark where that is. Try not to stitch into that. Okay. All right. So that looks wonderful. Okay. Awesome. All right. So the next step. So we're going to attach the zipper guard. So we need to line this up with the bottom. From here, we're going to pin it on. I like getting zippers into projects because it means that we're close to the end. It means we're almost there. Okay, I'm going to move my zipper pull all the way to the top so it's out of the way completely and I don't have to worry about it. And this has a little pivot up here right at the collar line. So when I get there, I just need to make sure that I'm following that line and just pivoting just ever so slightly. Okay, so I'm at that pivot point. And I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna back stitch that a couple times so that's in nice and good. Okay, so let's see how we've done here. So we've got that in, that is just a baste in there. So we've got it just inside. Okay, so now look at that. How cool is that, right? Okay, so that is just going to go right in there. I've got my zipper guard. Woohoo! Okay, so the next step, so we've attached the zipper guard. Okay, and we're gonna assemble the lining. So as she marks on here, remember the lining does not have pockets. So we're gonna go through the same steps that we did to attach the back to the front at the shoulders. And then we're gonna attach the sleeves to the shoulders and back. And then we're gonna stitch clear down the side there, okay? And that's all you need to do. You don't have to worry about pockets. There's no pockets. You're just gonna do those same things. So we'll do that and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, we're back. I stopped last night. I was getting tired and I wanted to make sure I didn't mess anything up. So even though it killed me to stop so close to finishing my coat, I wanted to make sure that I was doing it right and I was well rested. So that is just the way it goes sometimes, right? When we're sewing, it's just, this is real. So you're coming along with me on this journey, making this first coat. So I hope you're having as much fun as I am so far. And so let's get this thing finished up, all right? So before I stopped last night, I got my lining completed. And this was put together exactly the same way as the coat was. So we just had the front and we attached it to the back on the shoulders here. We attached the sleeve in this hole here and then did the full stitching up and down the side. Note that there are no pockets in this lining, so I didn't have to worry about that. However, what I did need to consider was on the side here, on one of the sides, it doesn't matter which one, I needed to leave a turning hole. Okay, so this is about 5 or 6 inches, maybe a little bit longer, turning hole, so that way we can pull the jacket inside out and turn it. So what we need to do now that we've got it set is bring these sleeves to the inside. Okay, So we've got the sleeves inside, and we've got this folded out. So we're going to take our coat, and from here, what we're going to do is we're going to have the right sides together of the coat. So the two sleeves for the lining and for the coat itself are going to be touching each other. And then I've got the right sides of my coat and my lining touching each other as well. So here we've got right sides out. What we're going to do is attach the lining all the way around, and then we'll turn our coat. So the first thing we need to do, and I'm going to tuck my sleeves so I make sure that I am not sewing my sleeves into my lining, because that would be unfortunate, right? Okay, so we're going to do the bottom hem first, and then we're going to do the collar, and then all that's left is down the zipper. So let's get this done first, and we're going to do our 1/2 inch seam allowance, and we're going to get it all pinned up. I'm going to start here. Get my pin, and you want to do the quilted side down, just so your liner doesn't shift on you or anything like that. And I'm going to go ahead and line up my seams right there, so I can just make sure that I'm keeping my liner in place where it's supposed to be, so it doesn't shift on me. And like I said before, I like to get my main points first that I care about, and then just work the rest of it in if there's any ease in there or any fullness I need to take care of. So we'll get this all pinned up here. And down around here. Now again, you could do this with clips, or you can do it with pins, whatever you are comfortable with. Let's get this center marked here. Okay, so from here, also what I like to do when I have a long stretch like this, and I do this when I work with cuddle as well, is you pin on the ends and then you pin in the center. And then pin in the center between these two and the center between these two. Again, it just kind of keeps any fullness or extra material just kind of managed, and keeps it from shifting around on you. Oops, I'm gonna bring that actually to the edge. There we go. And I'm gonna do my double pinning, because I don't want my lining to shift on me while I'm sewing. So we'll get this pinned up, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so we've got everything pinned up. I do think I'm going to pin my pocket, just because as I was working my way around, I kept finding myself tucking my pocket out of the way. So I don't want to worry about it while I'm sewing. So I am just gonna pin those up so they're out of the way and won't get caught up in anything. Okay. Again, you can use clips, wonder clips with this if you prefer. If you're going to use pins, I recommend putting the head of the pin towards you and have the point go away. So that way, as the foot comes to my pin, it's easy to pull out. So that's why I purposely put them in that way. So I've got my stitch length at 3.5, and I've got it set to a 1/2 inch, and I've got my blue thread on the top and in the bobbin, so that will be just fine. I'm going to give this a back stitch. And off we go. We're going to give it a back stitch. All right, so we've got our bottom seam in. Let's get these pulled out. I'm going to pull out my pin on my pocket. Oh, this is getting exciting. All right. Okay. So just checking my stitch here. Everything looks fantastic. All right, so we're gonna bring this up to the collar and stitch around the collar. We'll do the same thing again. Okay, so I'm finding the center of my collar and marking it with the center of the collar from my lining. And I'm gonna line those up and give those a good pin here. And then work my way from the middle out. Now the curve on this is a little bit different as far as the way my lining is wanting to lay on my batting part, my quilted part here. So I'm just gonna put a few more pins in there just to make sure it stays where I want it to. But no worries, we will make it do what we want it to do. Get it all pinned up. So let's get it sewn. Getting close. One step closer. So I'm gonna check my stitch. That looks fantastic. Okay, so I've got my bottom seam all stitched up and my collar stitched up. So now we're gonna go down the side here. I'll get this all pinned up. Now this is the side with my zipper guard. So I wanna make sure that I've got that tucked in and it's gonna go in between. So I'll have my coat outside here, my zipper here, my zipper guard, and then on top of that will be my lining, okay? Now keep in mind that we do have the zipper teeth on the other side here, so we're gonna make sure that we don't get into that. We don't get into we wanna make sure to be able to zip up our garment. So I'm gonna make that 1/4 of an inch seam just to make sure that I can get that zipped up. So I am looking, right here I have the seam for my collar. So I'm looking for the seam for the lining in my collar. And I'm just kind of gonna try to line that up as best I can. That'll be easier that way, there we go. So there's the collar line right there. So I'm gonna line that up right there. Again, getting my most important points first. There we go, okay. And then just work my way from the center out. Okay. I didn't double pin this one just because it was going over the zipper. I didn't really know if it was gonna give me a whole lot of benefit, so I just skipped that. Okay, and just a reminder on this, right here for this zipper, there's that little zipper guard and it has the box there, retaining box for the zipper. It also has kind of a plastic little plate there at the bottom. So when I go, I'm gonna be taking it real easy and I'm gonna go kind of slow because I am gonna be stitching through that plastic plate. So I just wanna make sure that I don't bust a needle on that. Let me see, whoop, get my needle up, there we go. Okay, and I am gonna move this, like I said, to my 1/4 inch seam, just to make sure I have enough room there. Okay, get my back stitch. Again, I've got a lot of bulk right here. Where is my zipper pull? I did not note that. Okay, let's see, this is what we want to catch. So I'm glad I thought of it. So my zipper pull is right here. And I noticed that when I was going to stitch, I'm like, there is a lot of bulk right here. And it made me think, hey, wait a minute, where is my zipper pull? So I am gonna scooch that up. Honestly, I should have done that before I pinned, but I'm just gonna scooch it up a bit there. Maybe take out 2. Now let's repin them. Okay, so now my zipper pull is clear up here. That'll give me enough room to get this under and past my walking foot, and then I can slip my zipper foot or my zipper pull underneath there. So let me get my pins back on here. Okay. All right, that should be a little, oh yeah, much less bulky. So if you find you're doing that, check where your zipper pull is. Last thing you want to do is try to sew through a zipper pull. Trust me, it's not fun. Ask me how I know, right? Okay. Okay, so I've got my zipper pull right here. I can feel it. So I'm going to move that zipper pull away. I'm going to reach into my armhole. I should have one somewhere here. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to find my zipper pull. I'm going to push it up underneath. Yep, that's up. Okay. I'm just going to scoot it past my needle. Kind of a tight fit. There it goes. Okay. So my zipper pull is now all the way down here. Okay. Put my foot back down. There we go. So up here, I'll be coming up on where my zipper curves over. So I'll just make sure, be careful going over those teeth. They are nylon, so they should be okay. But like I said, there has been an occasion where I've busted a needle going on it. It hit it just right. So we'll just kind of take it easy. All right, so we've got our seam all done in here and our zipper is all encased. We've got one more to go. Wonderful, look at this. Back stitch. Oh my gosh, are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. So what we're gonna do from here then is, oh, I almost forgot. Let me check my stitching. Make sure it caught everything. Okay. So looking at this, it looks like my stitch line came in a little shallow from where I attached my liner. So now that I've got everything kind of stitched up, I'm going to come back here. Keep in mind that I've got that kind of plate there. I'm just going to go over that again just to bring that stitch in a little bit because I just don't want the stitching from my lining to show. Okay, so I'm going to check this real quick and make sure. See, this stitch line just stayed right on the inside, so it won't show the stitch from my liner. So we are good to go. Okay, now the moment of truth. Are we ready? Okay, we're gonna pull out. Actually, it is easier to pull the furthest away first. I have learned from turning a stuffed animal or two. So let's grab, I'm grabbing my sleeves. I'm gonna pull those out. I've also learned that if I pop a stitch or two in my turning hole while I'm doing this, it's not a big deal. I just turn around and stitch it back up. So I do try to be careful, but if I pop a stitch, it's okay. This is also why, and I'll probably end up popping a stitch just because I usually do, but it's also why I backstitched it a few times at that spot. Ha ha ha. This is the best part, is it not? Okay. Here we go. I'm going to poke my corners out Oh, you know what I did not do? I did not snip my corners. Not a big deal. I'll just pull them back through. Where are my snips? Here they are. This is just to get the extra bulk out. There we go. Out on that corner, right there. Okay, that's it. All right, we're gonna push these sleeves back in. The lining sleeves, I'm gonna push out into the jacket sleeve, right there. This jacket sleeve here. Okay. Woohoo! Look at that. How awesome is that? All right, so I need to find my hole here. I can hand stitch this if I want to, but I don't want to. So I am gonna just top stitch it. It's in the lining. Nobody is ever gonna see it but me. So I am not going to worry about it. So give it a little back stitch. Little back stitch. Okay, so I've got that stitched up, just easy peasy. Okay. So from here, I'm going to make sure my sleeves are not twisted inside. Okay. And I'm going to line up my seams here. Press them open. Okay. So from here, I'm going to fold it under about 1/2 inch. I'm going to give that a pin or two, just to kind of keep. Now what we need to do is we're going to fold this under about 1/2 inch as well. Okay, I'm going to make sure my seam is open on here to keep that bulk at a minimum. I'm going to pin through that. I'm going to line up my 2 seams here. I'm going to pull my pin, line up my 2 seams here. I'm going to give that a nice pin right through there. Okay, I can pull that one out. Again, I'm going to come around. Actually, what I'll do is pin the opposite side, just to keep things. I'm just kind of working the material till I get it where I want it. Trying to find the middle of my liner and the middle of my cuff, the outside. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with that. Take that, pin that there. Okay, so I've got my liner, and I'll adjust that so my liner isn't poking out as I go. Actually, I'll adjust it right now so I don't forget. There we go. I actually want the edge of my outer shell to be overlapping just a little bit so I don't see my lining underneath, right? So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that just a little bit. Let's put the lining just ever so, just a little bit, tiny bit past. Okay, I'm going to do that and get the other one done. Okay, I've got everything pinned. So I am going to switch my machine here so that I can use the arm. You're going to see the stitch on the top, so I'm going to switch out my thread to my coordinating thread for the top. And I'm going to keep the blue thread in the bobbin because that's going to be on the inside where my lining is, where my blue lining is. Okay, and I'm going to bring this over, bring my needle over to the right. Again, put my stitch length at 3.5. I am going to start down here just so it's less obvious. Oh, and look. Oh, wait. Yes, I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, we got just enough room. That is fantastic. Okay, so on here, I'm going to back stitch. Now right here at this seam, I've got 4 layers of seam here between my seam on my outer part and the lining. So I'm just going to kind of take it easy. I'm not pushing it, I'm just guiding it, and I'm keeping track to make sure that my lining is going to catch. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to where I started in my back stitch. All right, let's take a look. Okay, I'm going to trim my thread. All right, did I catch it? Oh, shoot. Okay, I missed it there, but it looks like I caught it everywhere else. Okay, not a problem. We will go, I'm just going to move this. I'm going to try to go right back over the stitching that I just did. So I'm going to move this just a little bit out and put it right back on top here. So I've got it right here. This is how it happens sometimes, right? Okay, I think we got it. Woohoo! All right. One down. Okay, look at that. That is fantastic. Okay. So from here, we need to go around and top stitch. I'm going to go give this a press real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I got it all pressed up and ready to go. When I pressed it, I tried to make sure I rolled the liner a little bit under it so that when you saw it hanging, you didn't see liner hanging underneath it. So I am going to start at the back here. I'm going to change my top thread again because most of the material that is going to be shown with this top stitch is going to be my lighter color material. So I just want to make sure that blends in as much as possible, and I'm keeping the blue on the bobbin. Okay, so instructions are to start at the bottom. And again, I've got my needle over to the right and my 3.5 inch or 3.5 stitch length. Let's see. All right, here we go. I'm going to move my zipper pull out of the way until I get past, and I'll push it back down. Okay, so I'm going to get my zipper pull past there. Come on. There it goes. Okay. Okay. Here we go again. All right, this is it. We got it. Okay. Get these snipped out. Look at this, you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, gotta try it on. Oh, it feels so nice with that cuddle in there. Oh, it's so dry in here. My hair's gonna go whoop. Here we go. Okay. All right. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did try it on before I put the liner in, just to make sure that it was gonna fit okay. Where is my, there it is, at the bottom already. All right. Let me get that in here. Look at that, with pockets and everything. Got to switch out my pockets here. There we go. Woo! What do you think? What do you think? Wonderful. Oh, you guys, I'm excited for you too. Oh, I get to wear, I'm going to a quilting retreat or a quilting guild meeting tonight, and I'm going to show off my brand new coat. I think for the next one I'm going to do, I kept this one kind of simple. A couple of things I think I might have shortened my sleeves just a little bit too much, and I might have shortened the length just a little bit too much. So I'll make those adjustments. My next one, I might also taper it in on the waist just a little bit, just make it a little bit more fitted, have a little more shape. It already does have a little bit, but just give it a little more. And I am getting this brand new fabric in. This is Juicy Juice new line coming out. And so I'm so excited for it, and I think it's gonna make an absolutely stunning coat. On this, I lined it with the Luxe Ginger. I don't know, I'll have to see if I wanna put that in the lining of my coat. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. It has been a blast doing it with you. And look for the next video if you have some ideas. I like to try all kinds of different things. I'm not afraid to jump in the deep end, even though maybe sometimes I should be. But I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys want to see, new techniques or new things that are new to you, or maybe even new to me as well, and we'll learn together. So again, this is Rochelle Peters with TreasuredGiftsLLC.com. Enjoy your beautiful coat and have an amazing day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.